to today's video. In today's video, I will be taking a look at the Senate map in 2022. If the states shift over the next 2 years as did in the last four, what I did is I looked at the shifts and I divided them by two. But then I did make a bit of a mistake. I think this is the right tab. Yeah, the Senate tab. I did make a bit of a mistake by using the 2016 Senate results when that was 6 years ago, not 2 years ago. But I think it still is fairly representative. Now there were a few states that that we'll notice are a bit weird. Actually, I did use Arizona and Georgia's most recent results, but like Colorado, for example, it Michael Bennett barely won there. Not barely, he won by a fairly large margin, but not. If we saw this today, we would think that it was a he hardly won. It was only 5.7%. We're expecting margins of victory for Democrats that are around 13%. So states like that, Missouri was weird just because Jason Kander did very, very well. In Missouri, Kentucky was weird. I don't even know why, but Rand Paul did very bad. I'm trying to think. Ohio, Rob Portman's retiring. I think North Carolina and Pennsylvania. I probably should have done this for Ohio. Actually, I was going to do it for Ohio because it only shifted like 0.1% to the left. Would be likely. I did these for these ones. I did 2020 since their incumbents are retiring in New Hampshire. Just doesn't really count for Sununu. But for the most part, I think this is a fairly representative image of what the results will be. And I find this very interesting that this is what would happen should the states shift the same. Now, this is actually very similar to my prediction. And I think that this could genuinely happen. Now, New Hampshire is debatable, but should Sununu not run, now these margins will probably be off because Missouri is not going to be a lean margin. It's going to be safer likely unless Canada runs, but I highly doubt that he'll run. We can go on about Missouri and Indiana or whatever for a while, but at the end of the day, they probably won't be very competitive. And then New Hampshire, if Sununu doesn't run, it'll probably be leaner likely. But this could essentially be what we see, and I find that interesting. Now, I don't have a whole lot to discuss when it comes to this right now. I was trying to get something good out, and yesterday actually I was working on a map of 2040 if the states shift the same. It was very interesting actually, because like Pennsylvania was red, but like Michigan or something was blue. I find that kind of odd. Although its suburbs will probably be blue by then, but there's not a whole lot for me to talk about, so I'll try to talk a little bit. But Wisconsin, for example, I'm just gonna go to swing states. For example, in Wisconsin, it could genuinely look like this because Ron Johnson is popular enough. I don't think he's very popular, but he's popular enough, and he won by a large enough margin that he can probably win there. And the thing about Wisconsin is its suburbs, yes, are still red, and they're going to continue to shift, but I think that a lot of Trump winning here, or excuse me, Biden winning here was just the Trump effect. He won by less than Trump. What we've probably heard this statistic a million times now, but he won by a smaller margin than Trump did. So I don't necessarily know that they would be against a Republican, even if it is a far right Republican like Johnson. They could still very well be in support of Johnson. I think he'll still probably win by lean margins. I think that's fairly representative of that. Nevada is the same because it hasn't really shifted. One thing I did find very interesting, I don't have the margins, but one thing I did find very interesting was that Arizona would be a lean blue because if we go look at this, it shifted 3.8, so 1.9 over the next 2 years. Maybe I'll look over here. Oh no, sorry, I keep on forgetting. Or not 4%, around 4%. If you add that to Mark Kelly's margins, it was a little over 4%. Um, but I found that very interesting because that's the thing. The crazy thing is, that's not an insane possibility. That could be something that we genuinely see. Mark Kelly winning by 4% in Arizona. Because he's going to be the incumbent, and it's going to have 2 more years to shift. We could genuinely see him winning there by 4%. So I found that very interesting. Georgia, I don't actually remember what the margin of victory was. I can actually go do that math right now. 5.4, so 2.7 plus 2, that's actually 4.7. I think, unless I did some of my math wrong. I think that Warnock will probably more likely win by a margin of like 3 or 3.5% if he does well. Because he'll be the incumbent. They'll have 2 more years to shift. And there's a very good chance that he does get down ballot support from Stacey Abrams, and much like the Arizona GOP, I didn't discuss it, but the Georgia GOP is fairly incompetent. Maybe not as bad as the Arizona GOP, like censoring your own Republican governor is not obviously a good thing to do because he's already said that he wouldn't run for the Senate, but like honestly, people like Doug Ducey right now are the Arizona GOP's only hope, and if they're going to be out here censoring people like Doug Ducey, it is awful for their chances. But they are not great GOPs, and they're probably going to run fairly bad candidates. Or not necessarily even awful candidates. Candidates that could have maybe won in 2020, but won't be able to win come 2022. But in the state of Florida, I think this was actually about 8%, which is like around what my prediction is. I'm predicting like at the moment 7 to 9% Marco Rubio victory. And that's what it showed. So that's very interesting. That it showed that because it's been shifting. I think Rubio probably do 1 to 2% better, and 2.2% to the right. It's 1.1% over the next 2 years. So that was very interesting. The state of North Carolina, it was like a 0.15% margin of victory or something, which is very close. I actually think that's very realistic. I was looking earlier at the Arizona suburbs exit polls, and they're still red, like very, very red. They're still like Trump won them by like 21%, so they're going to continue to shift to the left, and that will not be good for the North Carolina GOP, and eventually the GOP in North Carolina won't be able to win because the suburbs will be too blue, and Charlotte will continue, or Charlotte, Raleigh, all these cities will continue to grow in North Carolina. Now Pennsylvania, I think it was like a 3% margin, or might have been like 2.5, something around there, margin of victory, and I actually think that's fairly realistic. Like, if what's his name, John Fetterman is the candidate, it could be that. There was one congressman, I forgot his name, who announced a run. I will go try to remember his name. But he announced a run. He could also do fairly well. They're both fairly strong candidates, I think. And it really could happen. In Ohio, that's like my prediction, like an 8% margin of victory for the GOP. I think that or that's one prediction. I have two different predictions based off of what happens, and I'm struggling to predict what could happen. I also think it could be 3-4% for the GOP, really depending on what happens, because if the suburbs continue to shift and the Democrats run a populist like Tim Ryan, we could see that. I don't necessarily know that they will run a populist, and I don't necessarily know that the suburbs will shift at a rate fast enough for any of that to happen. So I'm still going to label it likely, but that's very interesting. And then other states, as I said, such as Indiana, that are essentially just like that because of candidates like what's his name? This was the race that Evan Beyer ran in, right? Because Donnelly was the incumbent of the other seat, right? Yeah. So, I think that we could see, I think we could see someone like Evan Beyer or Joe Donnelly run in Indiana and do well. I don't necessarily know that we will, though. There aren't necessarily many candidates out in Indiana. I don't know every Democrat in the state of Indiana, obviously. But, Pete Buttigieg would have been a fairly strong candidate. He would have lost, though. It would have been kind of pointless, especially with such a strong candidate with such a bright future. To just send him into the slaughterhouse would be, not a great idea. Like, it's like, just a sacrificial lamb, and it's not very smart, especially when, like I said, he has such a bright political future. But, I don't necessarily know that there are many great candidates that they could run. Alaska, I think it was, like, barely likely, which was kind of weird. Especially with ranked choice voting, Murkowski will probably win, by a fairly large margin, because if she might not get a lot of GOP votes, but she'll definitely get enough, Democratic votes through ranked choice that she can probably do well. Iowa, for those of you that don't know, Chuck Grassley is just really, really popular. Not many candidates, not really any candidates that could beat him. I mean, there is the Attorney General, but he probably wouldn't, or he or she. I actually don't know. The Attorney General. I feel like I've heard people discussing the Attorney General. I'll actually go look that up real quick. It's Thomas Miller. I don't know that Thomas Miller would run, and even if he were to run, he would probably still end up losing, which would be kind of pointless because then he'll probably lose both the Attorney Generalship. Is that the word? Is that the term? Is it Attorney Generalship? They would lose the seat of the Attorney General. I'll just say that. And probably not win that Senate seat. So that'll be kind of pointless. Well, I think that's essentially it. New Hampshire, like I said, didn't really count for Sununu. Because obviously trends don't account for wildly popular moderate candidates who didn't run before. I mean, Kaleo is a pretty good candidate, but Sununu is a very strong candidate for New Hampshire. So I don't necessarily know. I don't know what I could do to make it account for that. I think it's likely red right now, that seat, but that's essentially my only difference, because this might actually be my exact map, other than states like Indiana and Kentucky and like Colorado and stuff. When it comes to like really important swing states, we're actually me looking at, this might be like my exact map. So yeah, that's actually kind of interesting that these trends match this map, because I feel like trends are a great way to look at elections. Sometimes trends aren't always right; they're not going to be right every time. But I feel like trends and historically, just looking at elections, I guess that's kind of looking at trends, are two of the best ways to predict elections. Like for example, the Georgia runoffs. You could have seen that minority turnout was raising, and obviously the state's shifting to the left, which should have helped, but that they hated Trump and seeing what these candidates were doing, which I think we all kind of saw, that they were clinging to Trumpism, and that Georgia had literally just voted out Trump, which was not a very smart idea. I mean, to cling to Trumpism when they just voted you out, not to vote against Trump. I'm not gonna say whether or not that was or that's not a fact, whether or not it's a good idea. My opinions, on whether or not it was a good idea, but like I obviously am not like Georgia. That was a good idea because like I'm not like talking to Georgia. That would, I mean, like, hi Georgia. I don't know, I'm going on a tangent here, but other than that, that's actually very interesting that this map, that these trends kind of encompass what the general census is, because I've seen a lot of predictions, and generally, like, we might say Wisconsin is tilt red, or North Carolina's lean red, or this or that, but essentially this captures, other than like New Hampshire, when it comes to the swing states other than New Hampshire, this kind of captures the general census. And I've seen people say that New Hampshire will go blue. So this really does. I actually thought it would. And then I decided, like, okay, I was thinking more, and Sununu was just like too popular. I thought it wouldn't. But that is essentially this. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked the video, please like it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned for my next video. I actually just got a notification. That's fun. I can't close it because, oh, okay, we're just doing that. Okay, yeah, that's kind of random. Those are all my notifications. Like, my phone is in the basement. Because I probably left it there one day. Yeah, but anyway, I don't know if you guys could see that. If you couldn't, that would be very odd. Just like, hey, my phone's in the basement. Go pick up my phone. No, but anyways, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Yeah, stay tuned for my next video, whenever that may be, and I will see you all there. Bye!